Welcome to California Now, a podcast produced by Visit California. I'm Soterios Johnson. California's 4 urban gateways are firmly established as cultural hubs that feature amazing restaurants, museums, theaters, hotels, and other attractions, but they all offer so much more than that, including vast outdoor spaces that provide locals and visitors with plenty of fresh air experiences. We'll start in San Diego, where you can tour the historic Gaslamp Quarter on a bike or a Segway and visit beautiful La Jolla Cove.
Folks get a really great experience with Mother Nature right there. You can smell the ocean water. You can even sometimes feel the spray of the water when you're standing there looking at the seals that call La Jolla Cove home.
After that, we'll check out the remarkable culinary scene in and around Anaheim, and we'll meet an author who wrote the book on hiking in LA's Griffith Park, which you've definitely seen in movies and on TV.
It's over 4,300 acres. It is the largest city park in Los Angeles and one of the largest city parks in the country.
And celebrated San Francisco chef Tracy Desjardins shares some of her favorite spots in the Presidio, including great ways to enjoy views of the Golden Gate Bridge. That's all coming up on California Now. San Diego has a lot to offer, whether you're there for sunshine, sightseeing and fresh air, world-class craft beer, or whatever. My next guest runs the kind of place that can help you get your bearings so you know where to go. Kenneth Lippman runs Another Side of San Diego Tours. He leads people on hikes, bike rides, and Segway tours all around the county. Welcome to California Now, Kenneth.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, showing people around San Diego, enjoying the phenomenal weather, how did you get into this line of work?
Well, actually, it's kind of a unique story. I used to work for a small bank. Many people probably haven't heard of it. It's called Chase. And I was a loan officer at the time of the banking crisis and walked into work one day and basically was told that we're all being laid off. And I actually thought that was really a blessing because I knew what I wanted to do while I was daydreaming in my cubicle there, making a pretty good living. I actually was very passionate about the tourism and travel industry, and I thought of the company Another Side of San Diego Tours, where I could maybe take people on a little bit better experience of San Diego.
So it was kind of like, the impetus you needed to kind of follow your dream.
Exactly. Everyone else was crying, but I was like double fist pumping and having that like Jerry Maguire moment where I had my entire desk in my right hand. I have my goldfish in my left hand. And I'm like, I'm going to go start a tour company. Who's coming with me?
Oh, wow. That's really amazing. Why San Diego?
Well, I went to The Ohio State University, and when I would walk to class, I used to think, this is a frozen tundra. This should not be inhabited. And for my very last spring break of college, I actually was lucky enough to go and visit my cousin who rented a really nice kind of beach shack in the La Jolla Shores area. I was in San Diego for honestly mere moments, and I knew that this was the place that I wanted to be. It's exciting for me just even today. If I'm out on tour, I still feel that very same excitement that I did 21 years ago when I first came here.
I see on your site that you offer walking tours and bike tours, Segway tours. I'd love to hear a little bit about each one. Where should we start?
The tour that we're famous for is called the Gaslamp Segway Tour. And the name is kind of a misnomer because it covers so much more than the gas lamp, but it's a cool name and I've stuck with it for all these years, so I'm not going to change it. But it covers the gas lamp, the bayfront, and we go up to Balboa Park. And the park is so big that we go from basically the Prado, the main part of the park, from the front to the back in the Prado area. So where the museums line the park, the center of the park. And then we come back downtown. We offer that same tour as a bike tour and also as an e-bike tour. So a lot of the different tours that we have, they kind of overlap, but it's just, what did you want to ride today? Did you want to ride a Segway and do an an exploration of downtown San Diego? Did you want to ride a bike through Balboa Park? We also offer food tours because downtown San Diego is famous for having lots of different great restaurants.
Is it called the Gaslamp District because the street lamps are still lit by gas?
Yeah, well, there's actually just 4 remaining gas lamps. They're on the corner of Fifth Avenue and Market Street, and those are the only remaining ones. But back in the day, when the ships would come in, the sailors wanted to have fun. They had gone all the way around South America, and they hadn't seen a lady in a long time, and it became kind of a rough spot, known for gambling and brothels, houses of ill repute, et cetera, et cetera. So there were gas lamps that would like keep the light on to try to prevent what was happening. But that later became the name of the area or the particular district, which is considered a historic district.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like 16 blocks big, but it's actually, even some of the surrounding areas consider themselves in the gas lamp. But yeah, it was basically to try to make the night into day and to kind of make it
Keep the party going,
to keep the party
so to speak.
going, but keep it a little bit safer.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned food tours. I'm guessing that Little Italy must be on that itinerary. Is it?
Absolutely. Little Italy is actually become the hottest part per se of downtown. And the reason that it's so popular is it's not just Italian food. It's got lots of different types of food, tapas. You can find the best steakhouse in downtown, arguably in Little Italy. It's also famous for its farmers market that they have there every Saturday. And there's a really cool place that I like personally. It's famous for fried chicken. It's called the Crack Shack. And that's really cool too. But there's some really high end, like almost what we would consider like LA style restaurants, like Juniper and Ivy and Kettner Exchange and Urban Wood. And these are, I don't, pardon me, I don't know all of the chefs, but these are like world class famous chefs that have opened their restaurants down there, and it's a really an amazing place. Great place to get some craft beer with Ballast Point, which was a local craft brewery that opened in, I think it was maybe a year or two ago. It sold for over $1 billion.
Hmm.
So yeah, makes you want to start making beer in the garage or whatever. You never know what can happen.
So, Kenneth, I know you show people around La Jolla. Can you tell us what people get to see when they're visiting La Jolla with you?
Absolutely. La Jolla is really known as the jewel of San Diego, and there is so much to see there. It's really, in my opinion, the most beautiful part of the city. We like to start by going to the highest coastal mountaintop. That's called Mount Soledad. And at Mount Soledad, there's actually a war memorial up there as well. But it gives you a bird's eye view of the entire coast. And on a clear day, there's no better view of the entire city of San Diego than and the ocean that you can get from up there. We also like to take people to La Jolla Shores, which is at the base of the mountain. This is probably considered the most family friendly beach in all of San Diego. It's a very wide open beach, and it's got a really cool landmark there as well, which is Scripps Pier. Scripps Pier is part of the Scripps Institute of Oceanography. And while we can't go out on the pier, it really is beautiful to see the pier and the entire beach area and the entire cove from there. And that brings me to La Jolla Cove, which is really one of those things that honestly will take your breath away. La Jolla Cove is a protected ocean sanctuary, and actually less than 1% of the ocean is protected. So that means no fishing, no drilling, no anything that could possibly hurt Mother Nature there. Basically, it's so beautiful. It's famous for the La Jolla kayak tours that go and check out the caves. Once you're in a kayak looking up at La Jolla, it gives you an amazing perspective of La Jolla itself, where you can see the houses that are on the hillsides and even the ones that are closer down to the cove. And then the caves were actually formed by millions and millions of years of the tide coming in and out and basically crashing up against the sandstone, which makes up La Jolla Cove. So we offer the La Jolla Cove kayak tours as well, so you can come check those out. And then really the highlight of seeing La Jolla is the children's pool. And at the children's pool, that's where the harbor seals and sea lions like to go and chillax, I like to say. And you'll see them also during pupping season. You'll see the really, really small harbor seals. But folks get a really great experience with Mother Nature right there. You can smell the ocean water. You can even sometimes feel the spray of the water when you're standing there looking at the seals that call La Jolla Cove home. It's amazing.
Well, Kenneth, this has been really great. Thank you so much for joining us on California Now.
I appreciate it.
Kenneth Lippman is the owner of Another Side of San Diego Tours online. That's anothersideofsanDiegoTours.com. As always, we'll have links to all the places we talked about on today's episode and lots more on our website. Visit california.com/podcast. This is California Now. Orange County is our next stop, a destination blessed with great weather, great hotels, and world-class shopping. As my next guest demonstrates, it also boasts a wide variety of options for foodies, including breweries, cocktails, and international cuisine. Greg Nagel is an Orange County food and beverage writer here to tell us about a few personal favorites in and around Anaheim. Welcome to California Now, Greg.
Soterios, thanks for having me.
So let's start in Anaheim. Where would you send a friend or family member visiting from out of town and looking for some memorable bites?
So that's pretty easy. 5 years ago, the Anaheim Packing House opened up, and it's this great orange packing facility that opened up, I think, early 1900s and has been repurposed into a food hall. And there's somewhere around like 30 or so independently owned, chef-driven eateries that have anything from Indian food to soul food to burgers and stuff like that. So it's really sort of like a wealth of anything you want.
So when you go there, where are some of your favorite places to go and what do you order?
One of my favorite things to eat in the entire packing house is this place called Adya. It's fresh Indian flavors run by Chef Shachi Mehra. And she has this gooey thing called a goat cheese naan. It's something like $5 or $6 or something like that. But it's this gooey goat cheese naan. It's super hot. And it's one of these things that goes great with a beer or a wine. It's one of those just like perfect values to sink your teeth into from there.
That sounds yummy. What I love about food halls is that you can go with like your family or with a group of friends and, you know, you don't all have to decide on one cuisine. Everybody can kind of like split up, get what they want and come back to a table and enjoy a really great meal together.
Oh, totally. When my fam goes, that's exactly what we do. We sort of split up, divide and conquer, come back with like a spread of different appetizers and drinks and sort of enjoy from there.
What are some of your other favorites that are there?
So one of the first places I would recommend besides Adya is George's. It's this soul food place that has really good fried chicken and fried catfish. They also have like peach sangria that you can sip on while you're enjoying your authentic soul food. It's super good. Probably not the best thing for you, but it's one of those things that
one of those once in a while
when you're
things.
On vacation.
Right.
Yeah, when you're on vacation or something like that, that's what I would check out for sure.
And I imagine these places are doing a lot of outdoor dining and to-go orders these days, right?
Yeah, actually, in the packing district, there's a park that's situated between this one side of Anaheim Brewery. There's a huge park area that has sort of like farmers markets and stuff like that, but they've sort of repurposed that to outdoor eating area. So you can order food, you can take it out for a quick picnic in the park. Some of the restaurants have actually moved out to the park, so you can order out there and they can cook it up inside the packing house and bring it out. Super safe and really cool to experience.
So what about some restaurants that are outside of the packing house? What are some places that you would recommend people to experience when they're in Anaheim that they really just have to get to?
Yeah, definitely. So one of my first places I'll recommend is called the Ranch. It's sort of like a country western saloon on one side where they have authentic saloon line dancing, and on the other side, it's one of the best steakhouses in Orange County. Everything from your tomahawks down to whatever you want as far as steaks and bites. It's really cool. Really sort of got a great vibe in there.
Hmm. More broadly, Anaheim has become a really like serious destination for craft beer lovers, right? Why is that, and how did it come to be?
Well, funny story. Maybe about let's see, I would say about 10 years ago, the Mayor Tom Tate came to me at a brewery anniversary party and asked, "How do we get more breweries to come to Anaheim?" And I explained to him that opening a brewery is really difficult, not only money wise and getting all the parts and labor and stuff like that to actually build a brewery, but there's a lot of red tape involved in building an alcohol production facility. So he sought out to meet with a lot of the local brewers at the time and came out with a list of things to do and how to sort of cut all the red tape to get more breweries here. And at the time we had two, now we have about 15.
Hmm.
So Anaheim's really booming in that area.
That's really incredible. So what are a couple of the standouts in the area for people who want to, partake in the local brewery scene? Where would you send people?
Well, there's no better place right now than Modern Times. Modern Times is a brewery that came to us down from San Diego. They just opened a place called Leisure Town. It looks exactly like it sounds. It's got this huge outdoor mid-century modern beer mecca with a swimming pool. It's got 3 bars, and there's ample area to kind of spread out and enjoy food. And speaking of, all their food is plant-based.
Are there any beers in particular that really just say Anaheim that are really kind of just, um, you know, a signature beer of the area?
Yes, actually, I would say there's a brewery called Anaheim Brewery, actually in the packing district right up the street from Modern Times, that has a beer called 1888, sort of a throwback to what beer was like back in Anaheim 1888. It's built on a recipe called a California Common, or like a steam beer. It's one of those classic recipes that you can taste a little bit of history, and it just as refreshing today.
That's really great. I'm a big beach guy, and I know Orange County has some of the best in the world. Where would you send me?
Newport Beach is maybe about 20-25 minutes away from Anaheim. Newport Beach, there's all kinds of fun stuff to do. One of the first things I would recommend would be a hike around Crystal Cove Park. It's a state park. I think it's like 10 or $15 to get in, but there's these gorgeous views, stunning hikes that go all the way down to the beach and overlook sort of all the Pacific Ocean and stuff like that. Other than that, one of the things I recommend, like family, friends coming out of town, is to rent a Duffy boat.
Hmm.
There's like these little electric motor boats that go around the harbor, and you can go take out maybe 6 to 8 of your closest friends and have a nice little afternoon floating around the harbor. It's really cool.
Oh, that is really cool. So you don't really need any special experience to rent those and drive those around?
Nope, you can rent them yourself. It's not like you're out on the wild seas. The harbor is really calm, and it's just where boats sort of come in and out of the harbor.
Yeah, I love going to the beach and just spending an afternoon lying out and hitting the water. Can you talk a little bit about, some of the beaches and, how they differ? What's the vibe like?
Newport Beach is sort of like a party town. I would describe it. There's a lot of bars along the boardwalk area. There's some pretty good restaurants and stuff along the way too. There's Balboa Fun Zone you can hit. As far as a little bit further south, there's Laguna Beach, which is sort of an arts community.
Hmm.
That's a really good place to go check out some cool local art and get a bite to eat as well. There's really good restaurants in Laguna Beach as well.
And Laguna Beach is also, I mean, it's an art scene, like you say, but it's also a beach scene as well, right? In addition to having a really great town right
Oh,
there.
for sure. Yeah. The beach is really cool. They have tide pools there that you can kind of go around and check out starfish and, see what's happening in the ocean there. It's really cool to pick out some shells and stuff. They don't recommend taking them home, but
Right.
it's rad to check that out.
What about Huntington Beach?
Huntington Beach is sort of like the surfer's paradise. It's got, I don't know, like 18 miles of beach that you can go surf around the piers, the hot spot. That's where the best break is for whatever reason. That's where the OP Pro championship is, I think, every year.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And it's actually, even if you're not a surfer yourself, it's a great place to kind of like, I'm assuming, watch surfers as they hit the waves, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You can walk out on the pier and get a bird's eye view of what's happening with all the surfing there. It's fascinating to watch from the top.
We'd be remiss to not note that Orange County and shopping are practically synonymous. So just for someone who's never been to this outdoor shopping mall called Fashion Island, what is that like?
So Fashion Island is a outdoor shopping mecca. It's even if you're not shopping, it's just a beautiful place to kind of stroll around and bring a dog and check stuff out. There's really cool fountains and koi ponds and stuff like that. So you can, even if you're not shopping, you can. I'm not a huge shopper. My wife is, so I can go sort of chill out with a book, and she can go do her stuff. But as far as stores, there's everything from like your Neiman Marcus, Bloomingdale's, and stuff like that, down to smaller, more local things.
Right. So they're big kind of like upper scale department stores, but also like boutique stores as well. And then you're saying like smaller,
Exactly.
like local boutiques.
Yeah, sort of like Rodeo Drive comes to Orange County.
I see. Okay. Greg, this has been really great. Thank you so much for joining us on California Now.
Thanks so much.
Greg Nagel is a food and beverage writer based in Orange County, California. He's on Twitter and Instagram at OC Beer Blog. As always, we'll have links to all the places we talked about on today's episode and lots more on our website, visitcalifornia.com/podcast. This is California Now. Even if you've never been to Los Angeles, you've seen Griffith Park in movies, going back to Rebel Without a Cause, or in TV shows like Criminal Minds. At over 4,000 acres, the park is huge, and my next guest, Casey Schreiner, literally wrote the book on the place. It's called Discovering Griffith Park, A Local's Guide. Casey's here to tell us about a few favorite hikes and other ways to take it all in. Welcome to California Now, Casey.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
So I feel like I know of Griffith Park, but I don't really know it. So let's start with the basics. What are the Griffith Park essentials?
Sure. So Griffith Park is, it's over 4,300 acres. It is the largest city park in Los Angeles and one of the largest city parks in the country. It's home to the Hollywood sign, the Griffith Observatory, the LA Zoo, among many, many other features, including, between 50 and 70 miles of hiking trails, equestrian trails, biking paths, museums. It really is, kind of despite the fact that many, many people know about it, and between 10 and 12 million people a year visit it, it remains kind of an undiscovered gem of Southern California.
That's kind of crazy. I mean, so many people visit it, but I guess it's so large that you don't necessarily feel in a crowd when you're in Griffith Park because it's just so big.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things about it is it is multiple times the size of both New York Central Park and San Francisco's Golden Gate Park. But the difference is those parks are kind of those big rectangles, right? Like when you think of a big city urban park, you kind of think of that classic Central Park. You can see the whole thing in one fell swoop. Griffith isn't like that. It's got these weird tendrils kind of going off in every direction, and there's literally a mountain range running through it. It's the far eastern end of the Santa Monica Mountains, so you really can't see the whole park all in one spot.
How did you first get the idea to write a book all about Griffith Park?
Well, I am lucky enough to live pretty close to Griffith Park. I live just off one of the southern entrances in a neighborhood called Thai Town in LA, kind of East Hollywood. So I can walk to the park, and I've lived there for about 7.5 years now. And Griffith Park was my go-to hiking location when I didn't want to spend time in my car driving out to the Santa Monicas or the San Gabriel Mountains. The park celebrates its 120th anniversary next year, and as I was kind of hiking and digging into the park and learning its history, I was really shocked to discover that no one has ever written an in-depth guidebook for it. It's been written about in many other books before, but there's no one that's ever really done like kind of a pocket visitor center for the park, which is what I did with Discovering Griffith Park. So I figured, hey, it's never been done. I live right next to it. I might as well do it.
And the park really is in everything from like La La Land to the zoo scene in Anchorman and even the original Adam West Batcave, right?
Yep, that's the Bronson Cave, which is a leftover remnant from a quarry that was operating kind of near the turn of the century. And that small little leftover quarry cave has been in so many things. It's been in Star Trek. It's been in Army of Darkness. It was in the John Wayne flick, The Searchers. But it is most famous for the Batcave. And it's actually a really easy hike if you just want to get to the Batcave. And if you are looking to see the Hollywood sign, that's also one of my favorite places to see it, right from the other side of the Batcave.
You mentioned the Hollywood sign. Is there a way to kind of get close to it or see it that doesn't disturb people who live around there? Because a lot of people do live right around the park.
Yeah, that's the thing that surprises a lot of people is, you think that the Hollywood sign is this big landmark, and it is, and you think it's in this big city park, which it is, but there's also people who live there. And those houses were built in, sometimes the 19 teens, 1920s. The roads are really not built for the kinds of traffic that a major tourist attraction like that would create. The great thing about the book is I give you over a dozen different places to go and see the Hollywood sign. Not always directly from the front or not always from that like super close angle, but there are places where you can get really, really great views and not even have to enter that neighborhood. The Hollywood or the Mulholland Dam, which makes kind of the Lake Hollywood Reservoir, is one of my favorite places to see the sign. You can see it from the Bronson Cave, as I mentioned before. You can see it from the observatory, which is nowhere near that neighborhood. There's plenty of trails that you can see it from as well. And there's even an option if you just wanted to literally take a subway, get off the subway and ride up an escalator near the Hollywood and Highland Shopping Center. There's a straight on view from there that will give you a pretty nice view of the sign. Not the best view, but definitely the least amount of effort.
So let's get into some of your favorite hikes. Why don't we start with one that's relatively short and easy, but I still get a lot out of it.
So if you want to do one of the short and easy ones, one of my favorite places to go, it's a place called Ferndale. This is kind of in the southern part of the park, right up near Western Avenue, where it turns into Los Feliz Boulevard. It's a very short, very shaded, very easy path that you can just do on its own. It's a beautiful location. You're running kind of next to this seasonal spring-fed creek that has, koi in it and turtles. It's a section of the park that is shaded. It's a section that they tried to kind of garden and add a lot more trees than would be there otherwise. So it's generally a cooler part of the park. And if you just want to do the Ferndale walk, there's lots of history along the way. There's really cool statues. It ends at a place called the Trails Cafe, which is a great place to get iced tea or coffee or scones. And if you wanted to go further into the park, you could very easily make a longer day of that. You can hike up to the observatory. You could hike up to Mount Hollywood. You can even do a cross-park trek all the way up to Traveltown on the north side of the park. But it's great for everyone. It's great for beginners. And it's my favorite way to enter into the park.
Oh, that's great. What about one that's longer or more challenging, but well worth the trek?
So a longer one I would recommend is a route that goes from the old LA Zoo up to the top of Mount Hollywood. And there's a lovely trail that goes up to Mount Hollywood, which is not where the Hollywood sign is, and it's not the highest point in Griffith Park, but it is one of the most popular places to go, and there's terrific views of LA from up there. That's one of my favorite hikes to do.
So how long would that hike take?
That one from start to finish, if you're doing kind of an out and back, I think it's around 5 or so miles, but really pretty easy for most part. There's really only 1 or 2 sections where it gets kind of steep. There is not a ton of shade on that trail, though. A lot of the hikes in Griffith Park don't have a ton of shade. So especially October, November can still be pretty hot in LA.
Mm-hmm.
But once we start getting those winter rains, December or January, it'll be a beautiful time to go hiking there.
That sounds great. Say I wanted some alone time, to clear my head. What's the best way to get it in Griffith Park?
Well, that's one of the great things about Griffith Park is despite having 10 to 12 million visitors a year, you can still find some pretty amazing peace and solitude in the park. If you're a hiker and you want to avoid the crowds, stay away from the observatory and stay away from the Hollywood sign. Those are the 2 most jam-packed locations. But if you go to the north side of the park or even parts of the east side of the park, you'll have a lot more peace and quiet. Specifically, the north side, there's a trail called the Skyline Trail that kind of runs from Traveltown to the new LA Zoo. It's more popular with equestrians. Generally, not a lot of hikers up there, and you'll get some really lovely views and some options for some side trails, too, that are even less populated than the Skyline Trail is.
And so, I guess for people who want to take a hike like that, say in the less populated areas, you want to prepare, you want to bring maybe, your lunch or a snack and your sunblock and a water bottle and things like that, right?
Yeah, of course. That's the thing that a lot of folks kind of tend to forget is they think it's a city park like Central Park, and they forget that you're actually hiking. And in a lot of places, you are actually hiking in places where, you might not always know which way to go. There's a lot of trail signs now, but there are still some places where you can get confused and turned around. And, there's wildlife up there. It's really hot. It's really dry. There's not always water. I've seen people in the deep interior of the park in like dress slacks and dress shoes that are really, really lost. So definitely don't make that mistake. It's a lot of the hikes in Griffith Park are not really, really difficult, but they are still hikes and you are still out in the wilderness.
Yeah, you definitely have to be prepared. And is there self-service throughout the whole Griffith Park?
Not the complete Griffith Park. And depending on what carrier you have, you can be inside Griffith Park and looking at like an IKEA or an In-N-Out burger and not have any cell signal.
Wow.
So don't depend on your cell phone. For the most part, you'll be okay. But don't depend on your cell phone. Don't make that the only thing that you do to be prepared.
Right. Well, before I let you go, I know Griffith Park has more than 100 years of history. Do you have any favorite nuggets to share?
Oh man, there are just so many great items of history in Griffith Park. And one of the things that I really discovered while I was working on this book was that you can really tell the entire history of Los Angeles and the history of the West in Griffith Park. There's land rights issues, there's water rights issues. There were riots in the park. There were one of the very first gay inns in the world was in the park. There's been protests. There's been cultural movements. There's been movies, there's been TV, there's been weird murders. It's really whatever you want to tell as far as a story is concerned, you can tell it inside Griffith Park.
Well, Casey, this has been really great. Thanks so much for joining us on California Now.
Thank you so much, and hope you have a great time in Griffith.
Thanks. Casey Schreiner is the author of Discovering Griffith Park, a local's guide. You can find it online or through your favorite bookseller. As always, we'll have links to all the places we talked about on today's episode and lots more on our website, visitcalifornia.com/podcast. This is California Now. Just south of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco is a lush 1,500-acre park on a former military base called the Presidio. It's a remarkable place to spread your wings, take in some fresh air, and enjoy one-of-a-kind views of the bridge. My next guest certainly knows her way around both the Presidio and the kitchen. You might recognize veteran chef Tracy Desjardins from shows like Top Chef Masters. She's a two-time James Beard Award winner and a true culinary rock star. Welcome to California Now, Tracy.
Thanks. Very lovely to be here today.
So, you've spent a lot of time in the Presidio. What makes this place special?
I had not spent a lot of time in the Presidio prior to opening the restaurants there 6 years ago. And it just has been this incredible period of discovery. There are so many nooks and crannies and places to see and be in the Presidio. And I'm a country girl, so I sort of just like to, kind of walk around and discover on my own rather than reading guides and following maps and that kind of stuff. And I've spent a lot of time there hiking with my dog, riding my bike. And there are just so many little places that you can find by wandering around, and I'm happy to share some of those discoveries with you. But it is just an extraordinary gem, and I couldn't be prouder to have a place and a space and outdoor adventures like this to share in San Francisco. But it is just an extraordinary resource.
There really is no other park like it, and there's so many great outdoor activities that you can do there. So what are a few that stick out in your mind?
Yeah, so I started, I think about 3 or 4 years ago, I did a fundraiser for Share Our Strength and No Kid Hungry, which was a 300-mile bike ride in 3 days. And so I did a lot of training, and oftentimes my training would start in the Presidio. If I didn't have a lot of time, I would do loops and circles and ride my road bike around the Presidio. Or I would head out over the Golden Gate Bridge and go into Marin and do some loops there. But in the Presidio itself, there are really a lot of amazing bike rides. And it's a great way to discover the Presidio and all of the vistas, like Golden Gate Overlook, Inspiration Point. And those are discoverable on a bike. I also have a dog, and I love to walk. And of course, it's all on a leash, except for at Chrissy Field. But you can take some great dog walks there. Some of the places I love to visit are the Goldsworthy sculptures; those never get old, and they're just amazing to go and see and behold.
And when you talk about, let's say, bike riding and maybe even just walking through the park, is it a hilly terrain or is it relatively flat? I mean, how difficult or easy are the bike rides and the walks through the park? Can you kind of select a course that is easier or moderate or more difficult, pertaining to your level?
Yeah, there are some good hills there that if you're not a serious bicyclist with a serious bike, you should probably avoid. But there are also a lot of flat places, and there are also bikes. There are also electric bikes, which in San Francisco are really great, especially if you don't know the area well, to have that little bit of an assist to get up a steep hill should you find yourself on one and not feel like you've got the leg power to get it up on your own power.
With all the hustle and bustle of San Francisco's many great neighborhoods, it's really easy to forget sometimes that this beautiful open space is right there and so available to locals and visitors alike.
Yeah, and I think that it's really been, here I really like to just kind of wander, and there's some great residential neighborhoods in the Presidio that I think are really fun to discover on foot, and you can just sort of find yourself in this area that has beautiful homes that are all for rent. By the way, people don't buy those; they rent them,
Hmm.
and they have their own little gardens, and so you can sort of get this idea of a lifestyle in San Francisco in this park, which is extraordinary. The golf course is wonderful to walk on. Obviously, probably not when people are swinging golf clubs and golf balls are flying around, but that's also super beautiful. Some of my favorite spots are El Poland Spring, Fort Point. I love. And again, I'll mention the Goldsworthy sculptures because those are something that are just so special and unique to Presidio and really shouldn't be missed.
So, what are these sculptures like? Are they very big? Are there a lot of them throughout the park? Talk to us a little bit about what these sculptures are like.
Yeah, so there are four Goldsworthy sculptures in the Presidio. One is called Spire, and that one's fairly evident. It is a tall structure that looks like a teepee without a cover on it, and super super beautiful. And you can actually see that one from the road. I think it's Arguello that goes down the Arguello Gate. Spire is pretty easy to find. There is Earthwall, which is I think it was his most recent sculpture that he put in. Really gorgeous. And then in Lover's Lane, there's Tree Fall, which is a great place to walk your dog on a leash. You can cruise through and see this beautiful. It's a flat sculpture that's a layout of eucalyptus logs that have fallen. And then the last one is in the Powder Magazine, which is just opposite the Officers Club, and that one is called Tree Fall. And it's the ceiling of this old tiny little powder keg magazine opposite the Officers Club, and just extraordinary. And Goldsworthy has been a frequent visitor. He loves the Presidio. He loves the natural forms that are found there, and so that's a real treasure, and certainly a worldwide destination place and thing to visit when in the Presidio.
Yeah, it sounds it. So when you're looking for some solitude in the big city, is there a particular place in the Presidio that you like to go to?
Yeah, I love the vista of Inspiration Point, and you have this beautiful city and bay view, and you can look over to the right and see the eucalyptus forest and the city, and then to the left at the bay, and that's one of my favorite points places, and it doesn't get super crowded, and so you can find a quiet moment there, even though it's pretty accessible by car. And of course, Fort Point is really special because it's right underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, and you can see the surfers who are extraordinarily brave off to your right that are surfing that little break that comes in right under the Golden Gate Bridge, and look at the bottom of the Golden Gate. But I mean, I know that I certainly haven't discovered all of the places in the Presidio. There are so many, and it's worth just wandering around.
And there's this great big project going on right now at the Presidio called the Tunnel Tops, which kind of seems like it's going to be adding a whole new great amenity to the park. Can you tell folks a little bit about what the Tunnel Tops are?
Yeah, the tunnel tops were the project to cover up the freeway that bisected the Presidio. And what they've been working on over the last few years, and this is due to open in 2021, is to go ahead and take the freeway and put it inside of a tunnel, cover that up, so that they can create these parklands that will reach from the main post down to Crissy Field. And the designers, the landscape architects that they chose for the project are the same ones who did the High Line in New York. And so this promises to just cinch the Presidio as a world destination and make it at the top of everyone's list. Obviously, San Francisco and the Bay Area are already a wonderful place to visit from anywhere that you live, or if you're a San Franciscan. But this is going to make this park, I think, something so special where you can really walk from the main post down to Crissy Field and enjoy the vistas of the San Francisco Bay and the Golden Gate Bridge and Marin County as you stroll along and enjoy the beautiful space that's going to be created.
What's something a lot of people don't realize about the Presidio? Maybe something that you've come to appreciate just by the virtue of spending so much time there.
I think that you can make it your own wonderland, and it's not very crowded. That's the thing that that I find extraordinary, is that you can really find, if you go and walk around there, that you could really have private experiences where you really didn't see very many people. And I find that just amazing in an urban area, that you can really kind of just carve out your own little space and feel like there's some solitude and some space around you. And I think that, to me, is really the beauty of it, is just and discovery. I know that there are places I have not seen in the Presidio still, and can wander through and not look at a map and just discover little hidden gems here and there.
It really sounds like a really great place, especially if you want to spend time outdoors. It's a really wonderful place with the vistas and everything else. Tracy, this has been really great. Thank you so much for joining us on California Now.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Tracy Desjardins is a longtime San Francisco chef. You can read more about her online at tracydesjardins.com, and she's on Instagram at Tracy Desjardins. For more on the Presidio, visit presidio.gov, and we'll have links to all the great places we discussed on our website, visitcalifornia.com/podcast. This is California Now. Thank you for listening to California Now. We hope you enjoyed this episode and get a chance to hit the road soon. This podcast is produced by Visit California. I'm your host, Soterios Johnson. You can find our show on iTunes and Stitcher. Please subscribe. And please check out our responsible travel hub on visitcalifornia.com/respect. There you'll find information on traveling safely during the pandemic and doing your part to help California remain a safe travel destination over the long haul.